All right, and here we are. I rose about halfway through putting my music in there. Y'all couldn't hear the music because I am broadcasting from Restream Studio, which is not my board on OBS, which I really don't like streaming like this, but there's no way to pull in a guest without doing it on here, which means that my whole board isn't integrated into the broadcast. So here's what it is. Anyway. Tonight we have with us Zeralath Eternal, good friend of mine. How you doing, brother?
Hey, what's good, Corey? Good to see you again.
So, like, we talked the other day, and I'm like, yeah, this is good shit. And I'm like, let's get this on. Let's just see where it goes. Now is the time for this. It's ripe. And, you know, you might lose me because you're way more educated in this aspect of esotericism and history than I am, admittedly. And you are probably like the definitive expert on this in my circle of people that I know, anyways. You know, more
right.
Northern European theology.
And I give a tremendous amount of credit to mentors and other researchers who I took to understand they were asking the right questions. And really part of the great put together, right? Because, I am looking at my own angle of things that have been built upon from the work that, everyone knows, as I always speak of, that I am an initiate in the Temple of the White Dragon, which is Seth Gasposa's mystery school on Black Earth Productions. So that's a very core one that I've been with for many, many years. It's been some of the best results in my life.
Awesome.
And then the things that are within that orbit expanded out from it, like Michael Tessarion's work, Mark Passio's work, and just my own things and where I came from growing into all of this kind of knowledge, right?
Got you.
Yeah. And to put together, and then like me personally, I've always been into the big picture. I've always just been into the big picture. I thought,
right.
I can look at my astrology chart and kind of figure out reasons why. Right.
What is your birthday?
My birthday, I'm an Aries.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it's the aspects of, it's really what's going on with like Sagittarius, I think is really what's kicking it per se. Cause I got Sag Cap Moon cusps right on Sag Capricorn.
Okay.
Which is in Vedic, right in galactic center, so I've got some Ophiuchus play going on and things like that. And I think that's all part of the reason why I'm kind of, I'm always looking at things. I was always better with history as a child than other subjects, particularly math, right? And so I have so I grew up like very in the right brain paradigm as a guy growing up in the 90s, filled with every bad habit. Somebody who wasn't like turning into a gutter punk could get their hands on it.
There were some bad influences around the 90s, but nothing like today. We had bicycles. We had like the Nintendo 64. We didn't have like 15-second TikTok videos that just suck the soul from you and all that stuff. Before we go much further here, let me finish the introductions. We have the lovely Alicia Ray here. Alicia Ray Daniel. And I see you changed that. All right. We're Daniel now. It's official. And she'll be moderating. So if you decide to get out of line in the audience, well, you won't, because Alicia will cap you. And we have our other...
And my secret squad of other cappers, ass cappers.
Yeah, we have ass capper squad out there, and they do their job as well. Oh, hey, there's your guana.
Oh, he's so cute.
You didn't see him there on my shoulder the whole time?
No.
He was chill up until a minute ago. Now he's gotten restless.
How old is he?
Let's see. I think he was a few months old when I got him in early, just like I got him like literally like a month before the pandemic. So he was a few months old a month before the pandemic. So he's about 6.
How big was he when you got him?
This I think is about his full size.
Mhm.
For him, there are iguanas that get way bigger. Down out there in the wild. There's some ones that are of much larger breed. Even if they're a green iguana like this one, they just get bigger.
Yeah.
This is about it for his size.
All right. When I was in Guatemala, we saw iguanas almost that big. That's a pretty big one. Even in the wild down there were iguanas on the walls and out in the jungle when we were hunting, and we'd see them. But yeah, very cool. Very cool. What do you think he thinks about? His expression doesn't change very much.
Well, him, what he thinks about? Escape. Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to read the facial features of an iguana.
Yeah. He almost got on the roof of the house, and we have one very wobbly ladder to deal with that problem.
If he got on the roof and it was warm enough up there, he would just sit up there. Because that's what they did in Guatemala. They'd sit. They go to the highest place they could find. They'd sit on a wall and they just sit there. They just like
until the
bask in
hawks
sun
and
all
the
day.
turkey vultures come for you.
Oh, that ain't good. Yeah.
Yeah. We have just enough of the right kinds of birds of prey to me not want to have him outside yet.
Yeah, for sure.
Not till I've built a sufficient, super secure pro habitat, and my skills and resources ain't there yet.
Well, cool. We'll see it when you get done.
Yeah.
All right. Well, where are we going tonight? What's the topic of our conversation, and how is it relevant? And how will it go in today? So I got political esoteric echoes.
Yes.
And that's pretty much. I was thinking around last night. That's gonna sum up. I think what we're gonna do here, obtusely. But why don't you fill us in here?
Yeah. Well, I know that there was a lot of inspiration because I was saying that. I think I'm piecing together a few things I understand about there's things I understand about like prehistory with the issue of what we talk about in terms of an Israel like conspiracy theory thing, right? Jewish conspiracy theory, all this stuff, not coming from an anti-Semitic point of view, but definitely an esoteric point of view, and definitely a anti stop fucking me in the ass point of view.
Yeah.
To be perfectly fair, right? So because it was the fact that I had just around now finished reading Flavius Josephus's The Jewish War. And I've been reflecting since I got to the end of it. So how does my mind perceive the history gaps between the fall of Israel and the Second Temple and the dispersion of the Jews who were not put into slavery? Because, it wasn't like all the fucking Jews were like just fucked over by the Romans, but they had to kill like millions of them in this war, or they killed themselves, and they weren't really soldiers. This is third world country with an Antifa problem, right? That's what the state of Israel as a Roman special project was, right? And so
funny again, echoes a special project of the Romans, the state of Israel, and then we had a special project of the Europeans, which
United Nations.
With United Nations, right? Yeah, they put together. They said, "Hey, let's make this special project." And on May 14th, 1948, we get the nation of Israel again.
Right, exactly. And it was the British plan for the dismantling of the Ottoman Empire after World War I, which would clear the political field and shape it over time and prime it for what would eventually come. Because I think from the way things looked in World War II, that the reality of Mean Mr. Mustache, of Hitler's agenda with the Nuremberg codes, which was the deportation codes, right? There was interesting politics within Nazi Germany about the what to do with all the different places to send Jews out, right? Because they did have a lot of Jews killed in camps. 6 million's a sympathy number, but the point is that, yeah, a lot of people did die in these camps. I think that the forces behind the shadows who would also come to establish with Israel the Mossad are people that were behind the scenes within Zionism, and they hired Hitler to deport their own and kill their own, to say, okay, we're going to start Israel and Palestine, but we don't want we don't like these. You can kill these Jews as your scapegoat. You get the rest of these guys deported, and we're wealthy people, we'll self-deport. And that's kind of part of what was going on in the 1930s, and then Jews all went to America or Palestine.
Didn't one of the Rothschild, I think it was a Rothschild or Carnegie or a Malone or one of those guys, didn't they write a book or a paper at one point stating that how they were going to kick off World War I and how they were going to kick off World War II and how they were going to kick off World War III?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They planned all that out.
That was what's his face? Albert Pike. Albert Pike wrote a secret letter in the 1880s, I think, and then was revealed in the early turn of the century. And it had a complete map out of the long-term plans of social engineering for the conditions of World War I and II. And they were accurate, as they, because people have argued that Albert Pike didn't write it. Okay, fine, you can have that argument. Whoever the fuck did write it wrote it before World War I happened and nailed it.
And was obviously in a position of power to write it and disseminate it to those who were.
And anybody who would have been reading that shit between 2012 and 2016 would have said that we were prepped for the World War III direction. And
we are.
And it was a milestone of the George Floyd riots when Antifa types took down Albert Pike's statue. That was a big conversation because everybody knew.
I forgot that happened there.
Because everybody I was talking to in my time in alt radio and stuff covering these events, it was just like, dude, they just took down Output. Like somebody's not going to take kindly to that in the shadow government. Like there will be consequences for that move, right? And there was significant moves made, changing the shift in policing after that point.
And they are serious about it. And if anyone out in the audience doesn't know how serious they are about Masonry and how they protect their own, if you go to the Washington, I think it's memorial or actually buried at, it says, "Here lies George Washington, a free and accepted Mason and first president of the United States."
Right.
That he is a Freemason is first, and the fact that he was the first president of the United States and was the general and won the war is like secondary to being a Mason.
And let's never talk about who are the presidents of the Confederacy during the American Revolution.
Well, name them off.
I can't right now.
Oh, okay.
Like that's because I'm also that bad on the history. It's such a downplayed thing. But the point is, there's I think about 5 presidents of the Confederacy, and this is where some people get the idea that one of our presidents was black.
Okay.
Presidents of the Confederacy, one may have been like a mulatto free man, or something like
which
that.
Which is not at all uncommon back then. And that does jive and vibe with my work. I'm in Arizona, and Arizona was slated to be a southern state. And in fact, I think the last shot in the Civil War was fired in Arizona, at Picacho Peak, actually not far from Tucson here. And remember, honey?
Yeah.
Over there. And a lot of the men who came and founded Arizona were Masons, like Lord Darrell Dupa, a number of Southerners that came in here. Alsip, God, there's a whole bunch of them. I was just digging in, doing some research in my book last week on it. And Masons are the founding fathers of Phoenix, Arizona. That's why Phoenix is laid out in a grid pattern and system, not unlike San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Seattle. It is a Masonic town. And people don't realize that. But the West was founded by a lot of the Confederates that had come here, and most of them were Masons at that time. So I throw that in there.
Yeah. And of course, the Masons are the Masons. They take their beliefs all the way back to the builders of the temple, right? This gets into my whole, aspect of the Jewish war bit, right? Because in the book, the second temple, that is what the Likud party is hoping as Israel's agenda to build as the radical conservative group that they are. This temple, the way it's described by Josephus, it's kind of like wonder of the world proportions. We're talking about the kind of super engineering by Josephus's descriptions. It's got it's got the thin line of placement of bricks. It's so intricate. He's making the argument that this is a wonder of the world before they had such a term, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just explaining that this is ancient Mason mastery. And it was understood that it was a part of the cultural charm of the Jewish people was things like this beautiful temple. Rome at the time was very much behind the Jews up until the emperor decided it was time to bring that state back under control because of the Zealots and the Sicarii in particular, who were making things difficult for what was already the most lenient rules for a Roman colony, if you will, right? I mean, you don't think in terms of Roman colony, but this is kind of like a colony before there were colonies. This might have been the prototype for a colonial state, one could say, right? Because you got a king, but what is your, but you're a king who's got fealty to an emperor,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you at least are a king, and so the temple was destroyed against the orders of the emperor and the entire chain of command, because one soldier who shared an attitude with many of the others was looking at it. They had suffered a lot of kind of embarrassing defeats in this war over what was an inferior enemy who also had so little respect for themselves that there was nothing of dignified men in this civilization worth saving. So, their attitudes towards them over this war had turned because, this was insurgents of people that were, some sort of Jewish idea of freedom, right? So there's these things that sound a little bit American. This is the way Josephus is characterizing the attitudes in Israel, at this time. And, the Zealots were playing off of the purity of the Essenes, and the Essenes were kind of like the high example of being on your best behavior as a Jew. So the Zealots were kind of like the antichrists of the Jews, right? I'm gonna, the Melchizedek, the head rabbis want me to clean and not have sex with, these were the guys that were more secular Jews, but also getting into Roman lifestyle like that, but didn't want to be Roman, but they were bringing in the debauchery, and they drove themselves crazy
Like Jack Mormons. Like Jack
Right.
Mormons.
Yeah. So one of these Romans basically took a torch and threw it into the temple, because the odds are that the zealots then would have rallied, feeling under official attack, started using the temple in a military style, which then would tell everyone else protocols to attack, because they had made this whole agreement that as long as the zealots are here and they're not there and they're not postured this way, you know the way the Democrats are just trying to like finagle the law to make them mostly peaceful protests,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of like Rome is just like, all right, as long as they don't do this, we don't have to attack them right now, because we're trying to figure out how to do this and save the temple. Well, the Roman soldiers fucking hated all of this. They didn't want to die for this. They felt a bit like scarred, like with their ego. So they fucking threw a goddamn torch to start a fire. The zealots panic. They start breaking the rules that they just set up, and that everybody started attacking. And then this is when the temple was destroyed. Flying chariots were seen. There was a UFO event. And then allegedly they called in the Melchizedek, the head rabbi, basically to come in, and they don't say what he does, but they say that he is called in to see and to make a decision, to see the destroyed temple and make a decision, right? So this kind of thing happens before everybody gets dispersed. And then it's a question of where does everybody who was spared goes, because although almost by and large, the mass majority of the population had to be slaughtered, what was left went into slavery, but then there were people that were already established under good rapport with Rome that didn't have anything bad happen to them other than maybe they moved out. Because the merchant class would be holding a lot of the continuity. Of course, the rabbinical orders.
I'm already seeing echoes all the way through.
Yeah.
Weimar Germany to today. I'm seeing echoes as you're reading off this,
Yeah.
And by the way, for everyone out there, this book, The Jewish Wars, it was written in 75 AD. 75 AD. Like, this is like current at the time. I was here. I saw it. I'm recording history. This is like, like someone writing down what was going on during that time, having a couple years to think about it, and then putting it into a prose that would last for eternity as to what happened. So it's as far as records go, it's upheld as a very serious, legitimate, non-biased record of events.
Yes, which includes a Slavic print version that has omitted testimonies by Josephus of a handful of things that would allegedly back up existence of Jesus in the Bible.
Chewy.
I think Josephus was a witness to the Sermon on the Mount, and it wasn't Jewish magic. It wasn't a transubstantiation of materials. It was 150 men just showed up and snuck a bunch of food and fish in and presented it. It was a massive act of kindness to recruit people to his cult. That's all it was. They just omitted the fact that there was 150 men who just went there to do a good deed and feed some starving people.
Huh. And it got written down as a miracle.
Right, got written down. And listen, if you actually analyze what's being said in the water to wine miracle in the Bible, this is a side note. It has nothing to do with Josephus. But he didn't transubstantiate water to wine. There was a wedding happening. This is probably a Dionysian ripoff mythology, right?
It is. It is
a wedding going on, and the one of the wedding guys was a scammer, and he had swapped out the wedding wine with water wine, not the good stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And so it was so people went and they saw the wine. I said, "Oh man, what what's this? We got the water wine for the fucking wedding. And
Yeah.
then Jesus, kind of figures out like, no. Look here. He catches them red-handed. He finds the wine that they stole and sets it right and fixes the wedding.
Changes the water to wine.
So he showed. So it was a story about being like a witty investigator. It's almost like, it reminds me of the Kvasir trying to catch Loki as the salmon after the death of Balder. Right? It's got those kinds of echoes that I can appreciate in the raw storytelling of it.
There's another story. I forget where it came from, but it's old. It was echoed in a Louis L'Amour book as well. And there was a king or a lord who had stolen all the honey from all of his people. And he was just a greedy person. And he had him in a storehouse. And he brought in this guy, and he was having trouble with the peasants. And he was always at war with his peasants because he was a greedy son of a bitch. And this guy had said, hey, I will go to the king and get your guys' honey back. And he went in and he opened the window to the storehouse, and he took the lids off the jars, and the bees came in. They found it. And as soon as they found it, they spent 4 days. I forget the time period was. They spent X amount of days stealing all the honey back, and the bees stole the honey back. And it got written into some great fable. And he's like, no, I just went in there and, I opened the window, opened the jar, and the bees found it. And, it got written down as some kind of a miracle. And it was like magic and sorcery. It's like, nah, not really. It's just bees. That's what they do.
One day I'm going to have an army of bees on my side. I've been building up a lot of good karma with bees. I've saved quite a few with water and dropped honey. Oh, this little bumblebee is exhausted. I'm going to save this one bee's life. Tell the queen I said hi, right? It's usually pretty simple each time. It's shamanic practice, right?
I knew, you know what? If I still knew her, I would introduce you to her. We had this girl we used to work at Pink Jeep with, and she was the bee whisperer. And when there was a bee around, she would go walk up to a guest, and she would just like grab it off the arm, and she'd blow it out. Never got stung. Just never got stung. She just always, she goes, it's about what you're thinking when you do it. I'm like, wow. No one else could do it, but she always could. She was the bee whisperer. She had a little thing with bees. I get it.
Cute.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, how does this book relate to today in terms of the stories, the history, the reverberations of what's going on?
Ooh, well, this book is it's a story, effectively of, is history repeating itself, or are we in a large unpopular minority of people that we're at our wits' end with Israel existing and causing a whole lot of a headache in a region that's just trying to get on with its life and maybe sell a little oil, right? This kind of thing, even though we may disagree with whatever agendas are going on in the Middle East that are extra Judeo, right? Or extra global, right? What are you going to do? It's a complicated world, right? And so, it's what happens when civilization says, we can't afford to put up with your shit, and we have to put you down because you're acting like a rabid dog, right? And so that's not what Israel is doing within its own country per se, and these, the attacks on Palestine are like, this is coming from well organized persons and stuff. It's not coming from like zealots and things, right?
Well, it's obvious to me that the October 7th attack on Israel was funded by the CIA and Israel. Like, they attacked themselves. This already leaked. This is out.
Well, yeah. This
isn't like anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic rhetoric. Like, they know what happened now. And it was a ploy to get Israel to attack back and say, and it was a false flag event. It was a Reichstag fire. It was a Gulf of Tonkin. It was a fucking Pearl Harbor.
Right. There was no pretenses in the Jewish war, right? Like, all this war is all on pretenses of feigning first strikes, and with these antagonizations, just making it happen, accepting the escalation, of the matter and getting what you want, right? Right. So the Jewish war is different in that regards, but like the Jewish war also happens in the year of 4 emperors. It was the most tumultuous, turmoiled year for Rome that ever been. The administration was in complete flux because you weren't having an emperor living out like a life in a term, like the way they're used to with their other god emperors, right? So they had to go through 4 of them, closing out on the Jewish war on Vespasian specifically, and then Vespasian, who I believe these guys are of Nero's line. So you're looking at the same dynamics where the more of this inhumane tension is existing here in the Middle East more so than any other part of the world, because of the frustration we deal with fundamentalist religions and their relationship to this region is a destruction of our own society because of how much money we just give to them, right? The Mossad is an organization that right now exists as the intelligence and security arm of Israel, but it operates on a higher level of intelligence than any other intelligence agency.
Yeah, they're the top. Even the CIA says, we cannot touch Mossad.
Yeah, nobody can touch Mossad, and you are ordered to help them. And Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein were assets of the Mossad.
Of course. Well, yeah, I mean, she was an operative, most certainly, and I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but Robert's other daughter, you know who his other daughter is?
I don't remember.
Robert Maxwell's other daughter is going to be, let me get her name here. Born, died, children. Isabella, Kevin, Ghislaine. It may be either Christina or Isabella. I think it's Isabella. One of them, technology pioneer. That's her. Isabella Sylvia Margaret Maxwell, French-born entrepreneur, co-founder of Magellan, an early search engine that was acquired by Excite. Okay. Do you know who her company makes software for currently? The FBI. The FBI. So one of Robert Maxwell's daughter fronts a child trafficking network to blackmail foreign dignitaries, Wall Street moguls, Hollywood, justices, senators, congressmen, presidents, foreign dignitaries, you name it. The other one makes the software used by the FBI.
Yeah.
That's Robert Maxwell's 2 daughters. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're infiltrating the United States.
I think my contention is that that Ghislaine is much more important than Epstein anyway, and that I think that I think that if there is a win that could ever happen in this world, it has to come from us being smart enough to get basically like smarter reporters that are going to be a part of this, right? Because the guy makes his asks his question to Trump, and the administration then just railroads him. He doesn't have an answer. Trump asks him, "What are we talking about that creep for?" It's just
Bondi
the guy asking the question should have that superior answer.
Yeah, she didn't even ask
right. All they did was turn it around and make it act like he's asking for everybody to see the proof there was child porn by showing the world child porn, that was the most disgusting level. That's 2 levels of gaslighting that
It was handled so poorly.
Do it that way, right? But you know what? If you know, it's been years and years and years, and our press can't ask a deeper level of questions.
We don't have a free press.
It can't respond. It can't respond like that. Like, no.
We don't have a free press. Like, I think people are figuring that out now. It's been rumored for years that the press is the it's the fifth pillar of government, right? Or the fourth pillar of government. They're the narrators of the official narration, you know. And people are figuring out, wait a minute. Oh yeah, we can't trust anything that they say. And now they have no respect. That's why everyone went from cable network over to the internet back in 2016, 17, right? That's when I jumped on. I started seeing that. I'm like, this is crazy. And right now, I think the average age viewership for CNN is like over 65. Facebook's for like, you know, I think that's 65 and 70. It's grandmas on there sharing pictures of their grandkids. There's nothing happening on there either. That's about as involved as they get. And it's happening here. So the intelligence agencies have infiltrated shows on the internet. In fact, when you look at a lot of these shows, Alex Jones, he's been rumored to be a Mossad asset for years now. Isaac Cappy called him a Mossad asset. Charlie Kirk, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Stu Peters, maybe not. I don't know. Well, you know, there's a lot of these people out there. Stephen Gardner's one of them. Benny Johnson is fully 100% U.S. intelligence asset. Benny Johnson, The Benny Show on YouTube. I'm sorry. I believe Benny to be an absolute total script for the U.S. intelligence agencies. 100%.
Yeah.
And that's what we're up against right now. So where we had a place online in 2016, 17, when they went around shutting down channels like mine, maybe yours, I don't know. I didn't know you back then, but I lost 7 channels in a matter of like just a couple years.
Right.
And then that vacuum was filled in with these other people that just got more and more popular. And now they run the narrative, and we're back to square one again.
Yeah.
And that's infuriating. Absolutely infuriating.
Yeah, it is. It is infuriating. Yeah. I feel better that like you can see right now in this country that if you're being wise and if you're actually taking care of yourself and developing yourself and everything else, you can put yourself in a place where you still have your personal kind of, you know, that American thing you're looking for, you know, even if it's from a poor perspective.
American dream. Yeah.
You know, because here's the other interesting thing. Trump framed a juxtaposition, which kind of can make you think in one particular way, right? Because he said, like, you know, because the other reason why he asked him why he's asking about Jeffrey Epstein is that he also was deflecting by drawing attention to his accomplishments. Now, what maybe he is trying to say by just jumping straight to his accomplishments as such, because it's not like the guy's question was trying to tear down his administration. He's just being persistent about a promise, a hope of some hardcore members of his base, right? That, you know, have fed.
It wasn't even a contentious question because,
right.
I mean, because Alex Acosta came out on record and told the press and put in writing, I was told to leave Epstein alone. He belongs to the intelligence agencies. And then what surfaced 2 days ago, Epstein, there was an article came out where Epstein was interviewed back in 2002. And he told the reporter he was talking to, I work for the CIA. That's what I do. And for some reason, this thing got lost in oblivion up until a couple of days ago. And I if I heard it, I didn't write it down, but
And I think what it is that you might be looking where this could be as simple as Trump is like, I am not the president that can even fight the Mossad, but I can do everything that the Mossad is not interested in. So our healthier domestic policy and stronger foreign policies that don't involve direct major Mossad agendas.
What do you think the Mossad or Israel has on the United States of America? There's a little country, a tiny population, and they are wielding like we're a bunch of bitches over here. What do they have on us that causes every Democrat and Republican and everyone in between to bend over backwards and fund them and stay out of their way?
Well, there are different kinds of rabbis in the authority span of the Jewish world. That is because the Mossad is an agent, is a soldier class of a mafia of these ancient bloodlines, and there's rabbis that take claim on these bloodlines, right?
Okay.
And so this goes back into, we can at the very least say it's their belief of antiquity and my belief in the interpretation of reality versus what they say, right? Because people also know that part of me looking at this grander picture learned a thing or two about rabbis from claims made in the Bach saga, and I spent so much time on the Bach saga. I'm overbached. And in the Bach saga, the rabbis were created as a narrative class in the original global system of the Hyperboreans of the first family. So before the divide, when Atlantis fell, when the Ice Age came and separated the Hyperboreans from the, at that time, 10 tropical races, the rabbis, they got everything happening in the central capital, and coming from the whole family saying what's going to be going on in the world. And then they would take that message and they would give that message to the world from the Hyperboreans. What they also did in the breeding system, and this is where it all comes down, which is why you've heard rumors like, hey, didn't I hear that Hitler was a bastard child of a Rothschild? He was like half Jew in reality. Well, this is what we're talking about here. The rabbis don't assume power, but they have the privilege of the seed of authority. So all of these divine right of kings that are under Christendom, when we lost the pagan divine right of kings, that's all dudes of the rabbis who basically betrayed source, who betrayed the original natural order of things, because they're the ones that dabbled in dark sorcery in the Atlantean times, opened the portals for the anti-gods. This is where we go complete woo, and basically created all the inversions, created the axial tilt that destroyed everything. And
there's a saying, I might be saying this correctly, but if you want to see how far the rabbit hole goes down, jump down it, and at the bottom, the letter T falls off the word rabbit. Well, you find you're in a rabbi hole every time.
Well, I mean, you're going to have to. T is for truth. T is for tear, and you're going to find none of those things in the void.
Yeah, you find yourself into a rabbi hole eventually, down the bottom of every rabbit hole.
Yes, and this is why, getting the knowledge together in this manner and getting it to a useful, apply to your life point is when you stop going down rabbit holes and you start climbing holy mountains.
Holy mountain.
Yes. I want to talk about that when we're done with this too.
For sure.
I hounded you for months. I'm glad you watched it. But and it's partially related, but
it is. It most certainly is.
But so effectively there were 10 rabbis for the 10 regions of the world during the Paradise time. And so these 10 rabbis got cut off, or nearly cut off from the Hyperboreans, having perhaps difficulty with communications. So these 10 rabbis became the 10 Shadow Kings. There also would be 3 more rabbis, because there would be 3 more Arctic races. That's where we come in. We're the late comers in the game. We were seeded later in the Ice Age, when the Hyperboreans were able to replenish themselves. They decided to make 3 races of Arctic people, which is where we get the Slavs, the Norse, and the Germanics. And that makes up pretty much everybody. And we're not Caucasians, we're not Caucasoids. We all went to Carpathian Mountains, the Carpathian Forest, and then the races split to their various regions from there.
Respective regions.
So
Where
we're
do you-
all Carpathian whites.
Where do you find and access this body of information?
It's a long process of things. It's very important to learn to know thyself first.
Mhm.
Right? That puts a lot of things into perspective. And you work from within outwards. I stopped being like obsessed with like things like the Bible, because either I'm looking for how the Christians are trying to fuck me over, or where the Satanists are coming from, or whatever. Right? And being like what was everything before all this shit came in? We lived completely different before everybody just said, our way of life, because here in the Bible is our argument.
I had a talk with a born again Christian the other day, and he was, that, and forgive me, I'm not demeaning anyone out there. We all have our own path, but this is a very common path in America. You have the guy who's a drug addict. He's in his 50s, in his 40s. He's recovered alcoholic. He's failed marriages, all that stuff. And then he finds Jesus.
Yeah.
And he gives his soul over to Jesus. And with Jesus, anything is possible. And he's in his soul, and he said the magic words, and now he lives for Jesus. And you know that, right?
Yeah.
And I said, what do you think there was before the Bible? He goes, well, the world was created. I said, no, it wasn't created 6,000 years ago. You can buy that shit if you want, but like, that's a mythos. Like, you're living in your own constructed reality at that point.
There's still a before Jesus before then too. There's also a before Jews in the Bible.
Yeah.
Right?
And
he's a biblical guy. There's a before Abraham.
Yeah.
There's a before all the laws were even written. Why were these guys totally cool with God before there were laws written, and doesn't really make a big point about what laws he lived day by day, right?
Yeah. Back in the day, did people go to work? No, they walked, they got up, they took care of their farm animals, their chickens, they did what needed to be done. And it was, you were living. You didn't have a career or a job. You were living with your family and your kids and the creek outside, or wherever you were at in your community, living and working as a community, how people were meant to, in families and tribes and clans, and the law that came in, again, law, Jews, Moses, right? And Moses is an archetype of, what's his name? From the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's a
Homer.
No,
Arcad of Assad. It's Arcad of Assad that I believe is the
he's historical ruler of
yes. And he's the archetype. He's the archetype upon which Moses is built. And all the biblical figures are archetypes of previous storytelling that usually came from Nordic, up in that region, Europe as a whole. And the Jews kind of collected these stories as they went along, and different tribes and different parts, because the Jews weren't like a one person. They weren't like the Japanese. You had all these different groups that roamed, and some got killed, and they bred these guys, and this went on for thousands of years.
There's probably a great dispersion of Jews that don't even realize they're Jews just across the whole Sumerian area. Places in Iraq and everywhere else that there is, right?
And before we go,
because it's well understood that the Jews in the Jewish war are not like, they're not like exactly direct line of descendants from the Jews in the books that they're about.
Bingo. Bingo. The Israelites written about in the Bible, or that were recorded during that time period that got compiled into the Bible, are not the Jews of Israel today.
Yes.
They're not the same people. And everyone
and it makes sense, because think about the language loss, right? You know, a big fact is that the Hebrew language is about 10,000 words.
Yeah.
It lost its entire language, which is why the Greek version of the Bible is the original, because they didn't have enough fucking words, right? If you were to like try to have an entire civilization talking about everything that the world needs to talk about, and there's only 10,000 words in your effing vocabulary, no wonder you're a third world country. You're an ooga booga fragmented conversation. You have to fill it in with foreign language. So they have to be, there's no ability to have pure Hebrew civilization until they can properly decode and rediscover their lost language codes through their own personal collective work on their tribe and bloodline, right? Because their bloodline is compromised by the outsiders, these dark occultists, right? They brought in the imposter gods.
Were you
the ones that get associated with our anti-gods in our mythoses now? Were
you there for the show we did about a month and a half ago about the occult metaphysical Christianity and the occult metaphysical hypocrisy, where I talked about where all the stories in the Bible came from, like with the creation story, right? With Adam and Eve, that was the Babylon story.
If I didn't catch it, I know so many of them. I call the Bible mytho-historical.
Yeah, bingo. Because the Garden of Eden was the story of the god Marduk, right? Then you got the flood narrative, and that's the Epic of Gilgamesh.
It's named after the goddess Idun.
Oh, there you go.
Norse,
right? There you go.
And Idun is also named after Udinma, which goes into the whole Box saga thing with Udin being the basically source creator in the sky, and then Ma being source creator of the earth.
There you go.
Right? And then Udinma is the realm that we know as like the Mount Meru, top of the world. It's which would be Finland if we were back on our paradise tilt. Then Finland would be the North Pole, which is why the original Santa Claus mythology is from Finland.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yes, and Santa is also baked into the Box saga. I did cover that in one of the later stories that I caught. I don't remember how naked anybody was for that one.
Even as a kid, I couldn't figure out how we would go to church and it would all be about Jesus and the baby and the barn and all that shit. Then we'd go home and it was Santa Claus and ornaments hung on a tree and a guy coming down the chimney and leaving food out for him. And I'm like, I knew something didn't make sense, and I could never, in being ADD, probably from a very young age, I'm obsessed with this my entire life.
Yeah,
and then you grow up and you're like, okay, well, they have nothing to do with each other, and obviously this is a constructed American holiday for economic reasons.
Yeah.
I mean,
the Christmas tree is the North Pole. It's the Axis Mundi. It's the decoration of lights is a representation of the Well of Souls. Each light on the Christmas tree represents it's not even a star in the heaven. It's something that's there in the ether. There is a consistent centrifugal force of soul energy. When you die, your soul is lifted up. It goes into the Well of Souls in the centrifugal force, and then when it reaches the top of that, that's when it finds, or I guess it waits for an incarnation moment. It all depends when a man unlocks the woman's portal, and then it comes in at the insemination point.
From my guiding days when I was always over at like the Montezuma's Castle in central Arizona, There's the it's a cliff dwelling, and there's a story I would tell there that was told from one of the other guides that had been there a long time. They found babies buried inside the houses, and when a mother would have an infant that would die within like a month of being born, they would bury it in the house, and then they believe that if they got pregnant again, the soul would go from that baby into the other baby that was meant to be. So it was like your second chance. And then the kid would grow up. They'd be like, oh yeah, your first body died here. We had to put it in the house till we got pregnant again. And now you're here again. That's how, yeah. But and that wasn't uncommon. A lot of Native Americans did that. Something we don't talk about. But, there's so many stories and ideas and mythoses of creationism and how we came here. And it's obvious that the humans, we all look for these answers of this great mystery. I mean, and truly, you and I right now, Zer, like you're having these incredible ideas, and you've thought about them your whole life, or at least last whatever years, and you're articulating them, and they're coming out of you're compressing air, and they're going through your microphone through this impossible thing we call the internet, and into my headphones, my Behringers, and now your idea is now my idea across an entire continent in the split, blink of an eye. Dude, if that's not sorcery, if that's not magic, if getting in a fucking airplane and flying across the continent or the world in hours and landing is not sorcery and magic, I don't know what is. We live in a magical world, and people don't see it for what it is. They're always looking for fireball shooting at someone's ass or something. That's not magic. The magic is the technology. It's what we can envision as society pull together from nature and create here. That's how I've come to learn what magic is. Personally, there's other forms as well, but that's the and then it becomes normalized, and then they push that boundary into bending space and time, and now space travel and time travel. Right? We're gonna have someday the ability to go across vast of space or into the other world or whatever and back again. It's gonna be technology too, but it's gonna appear to be magic. And by the way, earlier when I talked about Birth of Moses, that was Sargon of Akkad. Is what that was, by the way. I found I had to correct myself.
Yeah.
But all these legends in the Bible that in the Old Testament are just recycled, a lot of them from Sumeria and the Nordic religions and races.
Yeah, that's the region. That's the region that the dark sorcery was bringing in the imposter gods. Right. This is this is when things flipped, because they inserted this new relationship with your spirituality, with your connection to the gods. When these visitors came and they just basically they got the idea of the of how these people looked at those gods and said, oh, well, I can use my technology here and say these kinds of words and do this kind of a staged event with the technology and show them that I am the avatar of their god. I have come, I have manifest, I am here to give you a great beneficial change to your civilization. Right? This is, and we see this all the time. It's just like they gave us this in the Twilight Zone to serve man. It's a cookbook. The legendary 1980s TV drama.
You kids out, if you're under 40, you know what we're talking about.
David Icke's Wet Dream.
Lower fourth dimensional reptilians wearing human skin masks.
Yeah.
V was
so good.
V was just so risque for its time. It was like, but you look back now, it's ghetto as shit. It's like watching the Fall Guy.
And Robert Englund as the sympathetic good reptilian. Freddy Krueger's the good guy in V.
Freddy Krueger was the good guy. I forgot about that. God, how ironic. In the 80s when he went on to become Freddy Krueger. This world is too much. All right, you mentioned earlier, because we just touched on it. Let's go a direction here. You mentioned the chariots in the sky during the Jewish war.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, Psychic stress. Yeah, Jungian manifestation for sure, but I am sure that also that psychic stress was guided towards opening a portal, right? And so I think we had Anu Elohim coming, coming through the portal, because uh, when the temple fell, right, that would have been Armageddon for the Essenes
Mm-hmm.
and the Zealots. They both were, the Zealots in a manner that they don't understand, other than understanding their civilization revolves around this thing and that they were living in it and they were desecrating in the Holy of Holies, the Zealots, all right? Just because something about freedoms, right? And then the Essenes being these Puritan types, because there were two Essenes, right? And the Essenes and the Zealots were all, descendant of Zadokites. Zadokites are related to the Melchizedek, Zadok, right? Zadokites, which, that Zadok was one of the 12 tribes of Israel, this high rabbi bloodline situation in their scripture. So there was the Doomsday Essene cult, which was highly like you got to go through like months of like initiation, loyalty tests, if you will, because you were going to be living like a communist, in their little hardcore, because it's the end times pretty fucking soonish right now, right? Then there were the Essenes that actually were not recruitment based. They were they were families, right?
Okay.
Familial Essenes. They had children. The Essene cults didn't have children. They were entirely based on recruitment. What it reminds me of are like the Quakers and the Shakers in the early American, Enlightenment movement.
Who are the Shakers?
The Shakers and the Quakers, they were these communes in this is like early 1800s, like American experiment in religious society, right? And so they got together and they had a very, I didn't get a deep dive on it. They were like, I was a young man. I was watching like Netflix documentaries or something on the internet. I wasn't this badass at knowing anything yet. So I was just kind of like, interesting aspect of history, Quakers and Shakers, right?
Did they literally shake and, because shake and quake are both like, I'm visiting like they're,
I think
did they have that?
I think it had something to do with, they kind of did these dance circles, right? They had like these ritualistic dance circles as part of their practice. So they may have had a dance style that shook or quaked to the floor.
You're spot on. They were initially called Shaking Quakers due to their energetic worship style, which included esoteric dancing and singing. The Quakers, on the other hand, often worshipped in silence, seeking inward guidance from God. There you go. So the the Shakers were, they would dance and they would get funky, man. They'd get funky.
Right, exactly. They were, I believe there's still remnants of them left, because these groups were like the Essenes. They were recruitment based, right? And so imagine like trying to be a Mennonite, like the Amish, right? But you don't do families. The Amish would probably be more like the familial Essenes, I would assume. Okay. But the distinction that made them Essenes is that they were a doomsday cult. But the ones that were familiar were like, they thought the end of the world was coming, but it's not coming tomorrow. Right. So
we're almost dead. I gotta say, it is a doomsday cult, and and
the Essenes were at odds with John the Baptist.
I heard something a while back, not too long ago, a few months ago, from Nathan Stoltman, and he said, Corey, Jesus on the crucifix is the original what was it? Trauma-based mind control. And I thought, whoa, like, doomsday cult. We're all going to die. Armageddon, fire from the sky. And here's your savior, like splayed open, crucified, wound out of the side, blood coming down. It is trauma-based mind control.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I see it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's part of the cruel mockery of it. It was like, to have like the whole thing with your God being, seeing him dead in the place of worship or whatever. It was just like, this guy, he's supposed to be like your best friend, which is like how you would see Balder, for instance.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people, they ask the question wrong. They're just like, yeah, are we sure about Balder? Sounds like it's just no, cultural appropriation. It's the other fucking way around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Satanists want you to think like, Balder is just Jesus, right? So that way you can deny yourself a god of light, just because you have spite. And that's kind of an immature move. Right. I'm very harsh about Christianity and things, but
I am too these days.
But I am not an antichrist.
Yeah, no, I'm not anti-Christian, but I understand where it came from. And I've tiptoed around for so long, but the other day I met another born again Christian, and he was so fanatical. Mm-hmm. He was just, you could tell it meant so much to him because he needed it so bad, because he didn't want to slip back into alcoholism and all the vices that this world are, and he was probably in a bad way. He's probably better for the Christianity. And I'm not going to argue with a guy when he found Jesus and stopped drinking and, being a son of a bitch. Like, that's obviously a good thing for him at that point. Right. And if it takes this mythos to do it, but then they ascribe every one of their own things and what they did by themselves to this fictitious mythological figure predicated upon ancient Sumerian and, other religious systems.
Yeah.
And then they tell you, how real it is and how they know it's true. They feel it in their heart. And you're like, yeah, but that thing you're saying isn't what it is. It's something else. And I know, and you did it all by yourself. And that's what Jesus told you. God is in you. I am in you. You can be like me. That's what he was saying. It's in you. You've done it.
Yeah. Yeah. But
and Christians never get that.
People can't handle that level of personal responsibility.
Bingo.
Right.
Bingo, dude. Yeah. You fucking nailed it.
There's so many like levels of familial curses, trauma, like passed down, like father to son, societies to each generation, that it's real difficult to break people from X, Y, and Z. If they have just enough issues going on, they may have a condition where they've got all sorts of stuff with doctors all the time. And it'll be like, if you try this practice like this, you can get yourself off of all that bullshit that the doctor's making you do and putting you on. And, but you know what? It's working at a manageable level they want to be at.
Yes, right? And they make their own. People construct their own reality and their own religion.
Yeah, and there's an unfortunate reason, like the system has set itself up to, although we're not doing anything cruel, social consequences will cruelly happen to them for entertaining taking those kinds of steps.
Mm-hmm. And they'll do it to themselves as well. The amount of guilt, especially Catholics. My God, Catholics and Mormons are just, they're just beat with guilt, and they don't dare think about setting faith aside to think rationally or critically about their belief system. They just can't do it. They won't do it for fear of the penance.
Like, just as was understood with the Greeks about your daemon, and as well as with anybody else's personal spirits, right?
Sure.
If your daemons are going to be with you even when you're a raging alcoholic, and you're going to be in avoidance, and that daemon, I'm not saying is perhaps an evil spirit like an Al Ghul, right? But the daemon may be confused with the presence of an Al Ghul spirit, as he's in avoidance of his shadow work, and he'll go schizophrenic in avoidance.
Interesting.
Right? And so Jesus is kind of like that stress release, right? Because Jesus is this egregore he can call upon to, make him feel better about all the mistakes he's making in life, because at
Sure.
least there will be mercy at the end, right? Because I think a lot of human beings get programmed into a sense of, here's a life determinism that's an easy, going to make moral decisions easy for you by parameter. Now, just go out and have this experience that you think you want to have, right? And that's it, right? And not tell them that, there's a way for everybody to have a way more awesome time.
What better religion for slaves than to give them a religion where they can suffer and work and sweat and toil, and those are all, attributes, and they build this character and they have these parables about it. But then your reward comes after you die. It's over there.
Right.
Let's not enjoy this world here and become the best you can here and share in the bounty and of the world, because dude, you and I both know there's enough in the world for everybody. There's enough homes, housing, money, food, the good stuff for everybody if we just did it right. But you can't do that if you control people. If you do control and you're building for a certain way, you have to subjugate people, and Christianity is a great vehicle for that.
It is. And it also depends on which church, and especially if you're looking at ancient history, Christianity's always been many different things. But way back then, stuff that you were confirming as Christian were of such wildly different accepted doctrines, including the eventually it boiled down to the binary debate of either there's a Trinity because Jesus was the God's son incarnate, or it was what was being the only other conclusion got coined Arianism because of a bishop named Arios. This was during the Council of Nicaea debates. And Arios was an anti-Trinitarian.
What does that mean?
That means he did not believe Jesus was the literal, God made son incarnate. He saw Jesus as basically the super rabbi, the great man of example, but not a figure himself to be worshipped.
Gotcha.
A lot, but Arios was also wrong in his thinking, because Arios insulted the Trinitarians as pagan, to suggest that there's a thriceliness of a God. He wasn't, he didn't think there was he didn't think what they called the Holy Spirit was part of God, and he didn't think that there was anybody out there qualified to be what they claimed Jesus was.
Okay.
Right? So he called Trinity-based people pagan, even though his ideas about relationship with Jesus spiritually were much healthier, because it didn't worship a once living man.
Okay.
Never worship somebody who was once a living man. Never. It's a simple fucking rule. Nothing to do with Jesus Christ. It's just that you insist that once living man convinced everybody he was perfect.
Yeah. Well, my ex tried to convince me of
In the third world.
Oh, good Lord. All right. You said the book mentions sky chariots. And
my psychic manifestation, yeah.
Do you think perhaps when the Jews say that they are the chosen ones, that a divine in 72 AD, I think when this was written, I think that was 72, that the 72, 75, that if sky chariots did come and the Watchers came or the extraterrestrials came,
Right.
and the Jews were fighting for their temple and all that stuff, and they're like, hey, they took that as a sign, we are the chosen one, and that just became their thing, and they said it, and they said it, and they said it, and they said it, and they built intelligence apparatus around them to convince everyone else, and they had the Schofield Bible in the 1800s, and they got all the Christians onto it, and then they convinced us that they're the chosen ones because there were sky chariots in the sky. Do you think that's where my brain went when you said there are sky chariots talked about in the Jewish war?
Right. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, we do know that there's a lot of that medieval art that shows,
Yeah.
like the flying shields and the beams of light coming from them as
what looks like a fucking third grader would draw a UFO in the sky if you were to draw a painting. It looks like a fucking UFO right there.
And I can appreciate that being perhaps a portal from heaven opening up for light to shine through, because that also fits within interdimensional puncturings and things. But like, here's an interesting distinction, right? The destruction of the temple ended, it was the end of everything, right? And in the last chapter, which is about cleanup operations, Josephus says specifically they wanted nothing to be built where the Temple of the Mount is, that is designed for religious purposes, because anything built there for religious purposes could bring the zealots back. So once again, understand this about Israel today. The Likud party is hell-bent on the agenda of building the second temple as their divine right, as they believe to do. The Sicarii and the Zealots are among the honored in 1947 when the state of Israel was established. And when you read about the conduct of the Zealots in the Jewish war, and you ask yourself, did Josephus characterize these people correctly? Mm-hmm. Now, I asked ChatGPT that question, which I only expect to get the consensus public answer. But the understanding of ChatGPT, which is meanings it's the understanding of the public, is that Flavius Josephus did characterize the Jews accurately, by and large, with the exception of a handful of political biases that everybody understood, right?
Okay.
So the Zealots were these crazy Antifa-like types, right? The Essenes were these very puritanical communist types, right? And all these other characters doing their thing. The Sicarii were like bandits. They were just like bandits. They were just exploiting the fall of Israel. And so there isn't really much to their legacy. But
if
they build that temple, allegedly the Zealots will come back. So they don't want to. So that's why the Romans said, no, don't build the temple. So there's a psychic control force at that location. That is an important psychic location.
Did you hear what the Jews did this past week with the red heifer?
Oh, did they finally slaughter it? I've been hearing about that shit for months.
So right here, a recent event in Israel has caught the attention of the world. A red heifer was burned in Samaria, an act that, while not official temple protocol, echoes the ancient purification rites detailed in scripture, yada yada. Though the heifer was disqualified from being the actual one used for future temple purification due to minor imperfections, the ceremony itself was carried out according to the biblical guidelines found in Numbers 19. And practice run is not symbolic. It reflects a growing momentum within Israel to reestablish the conditions necessary. What I take this as is you are aware, I'm going to assume you're aware, that there is a program to breed the perfect red heifer, right?
Right.
Over in Israel. And there's geneticists, scientists, bovine experts. They are creating the perfect red heifer. And when they get a red heifer that's born, they go through the magnifying glass and they look for any hair that's not red or any blemish on the skin. It's insanity. It's fucking insane and stupid. But they're doing it because they take it literally, because they're fanatics. Yeah. And
every effing hair.
Every hair has to be red and perfect, and the skin under it, and it has to be genetically. And they don't understand that
they use genetic engineering to make make heifer.
This is what we're dealing with the nation of Israel. This is what we're dealing with, people. And it's not magic. You know, it's not like God doesn't want you to genetically make a perfect red heifer and then burn it on a fire so he can come back. Like, that's insanity. That's for the masses. That's religion.
Isn't that sort of a sacrilege to try and manipulate God into returning?
Maybe, but that's what Christians
just my 2 cents.
Aren't Christians praying for the end? I've had Christians. The guy I met the other day, he's like, Corey, I really want the end. I said, are you praying for the end? Yeah, because then Jesus guys, you want the world to end. So Jesus, because when Jesus is here, it's gonna be perfect. I said, is that what they told you? Yeah. Because right now I wake up and the sun's shining, the birds are chirping, life's fucking good, man. I go swim in the afternoon.
He's in a scene. He's a goyish scene.
Yeah.
Jay Adams said, thought they called that ritual off because the cow ate pork.
I don't know. But
Jay.
So what I'm thinking is, with all these times right now, Israel is trying to puff up the base. So they're like, oh yeah, let's sacrifice let's do like a dry run. Let's go ahead and burn one of them disqualified red heifers and get everyone riled up again. So that's what I see. This is a promo for the state of Israel. That's what I see happening over there right now. And it made big news this last week. The same day, I think it was Monday, the same day that Trump came out and said, you still talking about that Epstein thing? Like, that's over. That guy's a creep, man. That's done. We got real problems now. Yeah, like the blackmailing of our fucking nation, including yourself, sir. Like, the fact that, why we're over there bombing and the world's a mess right now because of Epstein. Like, everything's because of Epstein. The whole country is running on Epstein dirt right now, and you want us to forget about it. It was so insulting. Every time I think about that, I just get so infuriated that Trump actually had the balls to say that to the people who he knows no better, or he should know no better.
I mean, it is interesting, right? Because like it's the idea, okay, like the imagination of the implications to say that, and then it's all about how do people react to that? Like, is there somebody with credibility, or is it just about Dan Bongino huffing and puffing, right? Because right now the only thing we know is that Dan Bongino's having a temper tantrum.
Well, Dan's not going to come back. I think Dan's tired of it. I don't have inside knowledge, but
Dan's like new kid on the block. There's nobody in seniordom. There's nobody who's a big deal that matters, that has anything respectable to say about, here's this public knowledge about Mossad assets compromising American lawmakers, right? Mm-hmm. And like I said, like, maybe what's happened is that things are going good because releasing that would also defeat the purpose of prosecuting for it, which is everybody would be forced to resign. Thus, the blackmail will have done its damage, and we'd be forced into an emergency election and be operating under the Articles of Confederacy for a short period of time. Because
let me go a few. And that may happen, but let me go a few steps further. Like that would be the least of the problems. I think if this leaked out, a lot of the information that was gleaned from this Epstein Mossad CIA operation probably is used to blackmail the head of France, Macron, probably all the people over in England, Spain, Europe, Norway. Like, we blackmail our allies as well as our enemies. So if you inflate that leverage to the point that you can't use it anymore, we lose leverage throughout Europe and the world because we're no longer doing that. And God only knows how many other people. So you got that. Then you got, if they came out and said, okay, the United States government, the CIA, knew and was working with the Mossad. The Mossad came in and ran, a brownstone operation for pedophiles and kids in America. And the CIA allowed them to do it as long as they shared the intel and the blackmail with them. So the CIA, the United States government, was complicit in human trafficking, human atrocities, snuff films, rape of children, literally 8, 10, 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
The international courts would get involved at that point.
Yeah.
This would be on a scale that would completely knock the legs out from under and decapitate America at the same time. That's what we're up against right now. And that's what Israel has. This is the biggest thing to ever hit the United States government. And most people don't even know what's happening right now. And Trump is trying to brush it under the rug. Like, it's just it's just a thing. He was just a pedophile. And that's how big this is.
Yeah, it is, because, it's like people that don't know about the problems that you just talked about right there, that we talk about, that we know is going on. They're happy with what they think is happening in the country right now. They're seeing the deportations that they've been asking for. It's just like, I hate seeing it for what it is. I'd rather be a Mark Passio kind of guy, but knowing all of these circumstances, knowing, how people are, and what I just don't want to see people that are trying to heal and work, get out and get better, like dealing with this shit from this lie they were told. Just like, all right, we're gonna just need some government. We're gonna need some guys to fucking go in there and target problems for all the other good people that are not an issue for anything that are here.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry. I mean, like, none of us can help. Even if I've had a fucking AR-15 and 5 minutes of training right now, I probably still couldn't help, just because life doesn't always pan out that way.
Yeah,
right?
It's dark. Intelligence is a messy business, and it is messier than anyone could ever imagine.
So it might be the fact that the point is that list is now under control, and that the blackmail is being obeyed, and people are just, Mossad is still Mossad. They get what they want, and people have to turn their blind eye. But all these other things that we've never seen got done before are getting done. Why? Because people don't have access to the blackmail list anymore. So people are working well now. Like, if Chuck Schumer killed a guy, now it's just like, okay, nobody knows that I killed a guy. Now I just have to lose an argument with Donald Trump and fucking give him his goddamn vote. Fuck him. Right? And that's, and Chuck Schumer he has to eat a loss instead of finding an excuse.
So what you're saying is that some of the advances we've made with deportations, USAID, are a result of Epstein going down, and the inability to leverage that blackmail?
That is what I believe.
Okay.
That is what I believe that Trump wants to rationalize, as for people that are smart enough to understand that he can't compromise the Mossad. Otherwise, the next bullet will be allowed to hit him.
Yes. Well, there ain't no doubt about that. I think that was very well stated. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%. The one bill is saying right now that what Israel has done is come to them and said, listen, there's no way, because if America falls, Israel falls. Like, we're in it together, right? We've committed these crimes together for 2 decades. Our governments have, and Israel will not allow themselves to fall, and they will not allow America to allow them to fall. So they came and said, listen, we will stop the wars for a while, Trump. We will put everything on hold. You stop this Epstein shit. You bury it, and we will behave for a while, and we won't kill you. Like, that's what a lot of people think is going on, and that's probably a very fair component. Some of that's got to be at least true. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that America and the world's consciousness and maturity is ready to do better, right? And the last thing that's
Well
helpful,
said again.
the last thing that's going to be helpful for fucking anybody is like a criminal scandal that has nothing to do with fucking over the agenda of your politician is what brings them down, right? It's just like whatever problems Bill Clinton ever did throughout his administration, his impeachment had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, things he deserved to be impeached for, but instead it was just a cute, embarrassing sexual scandal.
It was a humiliation ritual, is what it was. It was a diversion.
It was Mossad work.
It was a diversion from moving our economy over to China and debasing United States production at that time in the 90s when that happened. Which I think was his biggest legacy, was to, tear the industrial legs out of this country, which it did. It propped China up. But man, I don't know. But then again, you're talking about a constituency here in America that fucking stares at their phone all day on TikTok, eats fucking Tide Pods, and fucking takes vaccinations for free fucking donuts. Like it just seems like we're gonna lose, man. We're gonna lose.
Well, yeah. I mean,
God.
the public is shifting dramatically. Culture is on an in-between because there's a vacancy in culture because of the way the media doesn't like where the psyche of America is, for either side's agenda, if you will.
And it is changing. Let's dive into the Holy Mountain here.
Yeah.
It's a good time. You're talking about the psyche changing and the Holy Mountain. Why don't you introduce that real quick?
All right. So Alejandro Jodorowsky made in, I think it was about 1973, I think, a movie called The Holy Mountain, right? And he's got other work that I haven't introduced myself to yet, but I'd been hearing about the occult and esoteric themes of the Holy Mountain for a while. It seemed like a film that was going to teach me a few things I needed for my magical practice. And so I got interested in watching it. And as I got through it, I was really absolutely blown away by the manner in which he did things with symbolism and made everything have its meaning, and then realizing what it was going through, because I was wondering to myself, is this going to be like a pseudo silent movie? And then you get into the second act and there's finally dialogue, and I'm like, oh, okay, I feel more familiar now. And and then it gets really, really interesting. Yeah, this movie is it was inspiring because it takes you through a first act that shows you the profane world. Then it takes you through a middle act which shows you the initiation into enlightenment and finding oneself, as well as an introduction to our rogues gallery, because this is the third act of the film is a heist movie. And the idea is that they're going to go and steal the Holy Mountain, because the alchemist, played by Jodorowsky, believes he has found the location of the Holy Mountain, the one that is alluded to in all the other various scriptural books. And so they go to this mountain in South America in a ritual pilgrimage of transformation. And then there's a million details that I have left out, and there's a ending so good I don't want to spoil it.
I was gonna show the ending, but all right, we won't show it. It wraps up the entire movie.
You're really gonna show it though. I mean, that's different. I mean, like, If you want to spoil it for the audience, that's good. I'm being polite to the audience.
We'll take a vote. The audience, are you going to watch the Holy Mountain? Would you have us show it, or are you like, no, don't show it, we're going to watch it? Let us know here in the comments. We won't do it. We have till the end of the show here. We can chill out. So let us know. But it's the ending is what you'd always hope for in a movie of this caliber. And this movie, it runs around astrology, it runs around archetypes. It's very heavy. It was 1972, I believe. 73, Mexican surrealistic film. So if you ever seen El Topo, do you ever see El Topo? These movies are hard to watch for me. But El Topo in Spanish means the mole, like the mole, underground mole, like the animal. And the character was the mole. That's what he was called. It's kind of filmed in the same.
I don't think we watched that.
No, we didn't watch it.
So I haven't seen it.
I'm trying to find where's Jay Adams. I know Jay Adams got an opinion on this. I think this movie was banned in the U.S. and then it screened in Mexico and caused a riot. Yeah, Jay, that's it. I believe that's it. Did you ever see that movie El Topo?
No, I haven't had a chance yet. It's on my watch list, but now
it's funky and freaky and hippie, esoteric and all the crazy. It's like an older version of like Welcome to Whoop Whoop. If you ever seen that movie as well,
no, I don't. Okay.
Great movie, by the way, Daddy-O. Who out there seen Welcome to Whoop Whoop? Because we're in the same club if you have, but it's like that. And for me, these 60s movies, this is brilliant though. The Holy Mountain is worth watching. Get some weed, kick back, get a 6-pack of beer, whatever you got to do. Just chill out and watch it. It's not going to be a modern day movie like you expected. It is a story. It is a religious story about you and what you may be going through and capable of and where you need to be. And the end message is just so it's pretty profound.
If you've got a 101 on occult symbolism, you'll be able to have a decent time following what's going on. There's a lot of visual storytelling using direct occult symbolisms from magical glyphs written on all sorts of things. There's plenty of Kabbalism,
astrology,
astrology and everything.
On the table, the symbol they have, the 9-pointed star, is the star of the Baha'i faith. And the Baha'i faith was like the 9. Baha'i, yeah.
It's the enneagram. Yeah, it's the enneagram.
Yeah. Only in the end, they flipped the table over because that symbol was supposed to be like, we are the final religion of all the religions, and they flipped that table over with that symbol on it. And at that time, when the Baha'i faith was going on, that was the new kind of new, but new to Americans. And there's very, very powerful symbolism if you are aware of what symbols are being used during that time period.
That is why I had, for my breakdown on my channel, my buddy Slick Dissident, who he was tuning in earlier. So shout out to Slick, who he came on, did my 2-parter with me. Because after I watched it, I told him he's got to watch it because he has been part of his life work has been all these systems that revolve around the mechanics of the Enneagram. So he has deconstructed Gurdjieff and taken out all the funky stuff that I don't know too well, because I didn't know much about Gurdjieff. I learned a thing or two from him because it's more about the basics of the Enneagram system and not so much where Gurdjieff took that system, where he is taking it and working it out in another grand theory of how it fits into magic.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's if you ever want to talk Enneagram, talk to Slick.
Okay. All right. Noted. Do you think that we are going to see reverberations, echoes of the Jewish war again? Do you think we're headed for that?
I don't know. if we're talking about whether there's going to be a major civil war or strife within the Jewish state itself, and not just between the Jewish state and Palestine, I don't know. I don't know how tumultuous things have been. I know the Likud party has been solid for forever. And those people have a tremendous amount of their tradition as it stands. Like, I don't know. It's I'd imagine that there might be some forces that want to do that where things hit a beat, because there may be a correspondence to what we went through. Perhaps it was meant to sympathetically also happen in Israel.
Yeah.
Right. But maybe that tide has turned, maybe because of what has happened here, that they have changed that script. Perhaps.
Yeah. I just looked up here the movie just so I get some background. We're talking about it.
Yeah.
It looks like Alejandro here, who did this movie, he also did El Topo, the one I'm telling you about.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So it would be, like, okay, that's why they're so similar. That's why it reminds me of that one. Also, were you aware that his parents, was born in 1929 in Chile to immigrant Ukrainian Jewish parents? He comes from Small Hats. He comes from Small Hats.
Yeah, he would. He would. That's right.
According to his account, he was conceived from, according to his own account, he was conceived from sexual violence that his mother had faced, as his father was physically and sexually abusive towards her. So it's probably a catalyst for a lot of his energy for doing what he does.
Right.
Interesting. History is just amazing to see how we got to where we're at now. I find all this fascinating, even the little bits.
Yeah, and Jodorowsky, to be clear, he is an occultist and a filmmaker.
Okay.
Like, he writes these movies. He understands it. He's his mastercraft is with the Marseille. The traditional French deck is his weapon of choice. I've watched him do tarot readings, the few that he has allowed filmed and released on YouTube. He's got a very interesting style that I like, and that maybe I might adapt into my own spread craft down the line, once I have a closer look at what the way he does it is. But yeah, like if you particularly understand the language of tarot, that's even better for watching this film, because you'll understand what tarot cards he's manifesting, as he does a great deal of it on the nose.
Like the tower card with the man falling, right?
Yeah.
And then remember the scene where the thief is going up the tower?
Yes.
To where the alchemist is. I mean, he puts those kinds of things. That's what came to mind when he said, "If you know tarot, you're gonna know."
Right. Precisely. Those are all important aspects of it. What was your impression now of when they went through the Rogues Gallery? Because that for me is the one I really wanted to ask. Well, you're on here I'm on here for you to talk to me, but I want to know your thoughts.
I skimmed over that part. Tell me about that.
Well, you see, that was the conspiracy part of it, right?
Okay.
It was kind of like, it was a demonstration of, so the alchemist, Jodorowsky, all of those guys are as initiates, and all of them use their magical talent to be high level scam artists in various different South American administrations across the region, across the continent, to basically help those governments in their agenda of destroying their own nations.
Well, I mean, from the story, it's intergalactic people that have come to Earth to be with him as disciples. They're from other planets too.
No, they're not from those planets. That's not what he was saying when he was going through the scene. Each one of them is archetypally representing the astrology of that planet. It's planetary astrology.
Okay,
right?
I see. All right.
So he's going through each one with those qualities, right? So the alchemist himself is Mercury, and the thief is Moon.
Moon.
Wait. No, do I have that wrong? No. I think the alchemist. No. The alchemist was the sun. The chick that was covered in the Hebrew paint job, the black girl, she's Mercury, I think. No. She's the moon. Mm-hmm. The alchemist is Mercury, and then they kind of take you on the roll call with the guy who plays Venus, and Venus. He is doing what? He's making all this. He's making clothing for people. He's designing beds for people to sleep in. The pleasures of life, right? Venus, right? He's a ladies' man. Pleasure. He's alluring all the women. Yeah. He's the guy who casts him. He's got the Lucifer kind of vibes with the black hair and the sex appeal.
Dionysus
right?
thing going on.
Yeah, the Dionysus thing. Then they go to Mars. Mars again. It's a black woman. She's a lesbian, and she makes weapons. She's a weapons maker.
Can't get angrier than that.
She sells her weapons to the third world, things like that. She's a major arms dealer. That's Mars, right? So it goes through the rogues gallery, and each one is showing you their government approved contribution to corruption and true human suffering as per the desires of the people that want to suffer.
Yeah. And that system is a capitalistic fascist system. He blends capitalistic fascist.
Yeah. His wife plays Saturn. Her role is psychotic.
That's interesting.
Because I believe that he actually captured, whether he knew about the Saturn moon matrix or not, he actually captured the Saturn moon matrix in style. He captured the Egyptological idea of the house of the net.
Okay.
Right? Because it was like, so she's got this whole factory, and she's doing the whole child fucking soldier thing, and her eyes are just so soulless with the whole thing. And this is all happening in
what did Saturn do? Saturn ate his children, right?
Saturn ate the children, right? It shows her as a clown in the beginning, and she's out by like the orphanage or whatever it is, that big building with the iron gates and stuff, and she's dressed up like a clown, and it's a Christmassy thing, and her company's people are giving the kids toys, and she's all smiles and bubbles, and then she gets on an elephant with crescent moons painted on its side, and then walks with the procession of the people that were with her with all the entertainment from there to this postmodern building that looks kind of like a net going over top of something, right? Okay. So it made me think of a fisherman's net, which made me think of the house of the net, which traps souls in Egyptian mythology, associated with Thoth.
Okay.
Right? The house of the net. And then in there, that's where all the child soldiers are being developed because of all of the war toys that she's been selling them. Right? So the war toys for the children, Mars with the real weapons. It's all this stuff. Neptune is the guy who comes in on the horse, and he's got the Castrata army. That is Baal. When people talk about the force of Baal, is the Castrata. And the fascists, like the police officers, they are, on the job. They're treated as castrati are supposed to be those kinds of guys, right? So that's why everybody in his cult has to be castrated.
Interesting. Alicia, what do you got?
There's a question for you in Rumble.
What do you got?
Did she live in a black cube?
Did she live in a black cube?
Did she live in a black cube?
I didn't see that.
I can't remember. The black cube imagery does show up because there's because there's definitely inspiration from it, because like postmodernism has that cubist kind of style. Pluto being the architect has the coffin apartments.
Okay.
They're not even apartments, they're beds. They're big beds that have some living provisions that are suspended in the air. They look like coffins, and it's a living unit, and they're just not calling it a coffin. And then you just live in your coffin and you go, it's 15-minute city shit, right? Like there were so many little things that predicted the future going on in this, right? And so,
and it does. My God, yeah, there's so much.
Yeah, and the thing is that you go through all of this, and these are the protagonists of the movie, right? Because like all of them are like, it's not their plan, their personal plan to like go and destroy a third world country, but the third world country is already destroying itself. They're exploiting that so that way they can be assets for the alchemist in his heist of the Holy Mountain. And the heist of the Holy Mountain is interesting with these main characters, because then it all gets turned in on them, because through the process, like the elites are not doing these kinds of making myself a better person rituals, because the alchemist takes all of these scoundrels and makes them do a lot of fucking shadow work on the pilgrimage that they're happy to do.
And that's basically the story. That's the movie, is the shadow work as they're going through doing all these weird things.
It makes such a beautiful point.
Did you remember? Did you notice at the very last scene where he says what he says? They flip the table over. They all get up, and what do they do though? As it's fading out, where are they walking towards? They're walking towards the mountain. After he just says what he says, they flip the table over. They get up and they walk. They turn around. They walk towards the mountain. Which I thought, whoa. They're doing it again, which I took to mean, because keep in mind, this was in 1973, it came out, which means they worked on it probably from 70, 71, 72, 73, right?
Wait, are we talking about, we're talking, when they're at the table. He flips the table.
The camera zooms out. You see what you see, right? Right. And he says it's all an illusion. Yeah. And they all turn around and they walk towards the mountain. That's in the background already.
Right.
Showing,
I
think it shows the human comedy of us and what we're going to do anyways. Even though he told you what it was as the alchemist, he knows you're going to go do that anyways. He knows you're going to follow those empty, false religions and all that anyways, even though the answer is right where he told you it was.
Right. Exactly. It's exactly what you see, like, when they get to the base of the mountain, right? And then there's the whole
climbing scene.
No, not the climbing scene. Before they get climbing, it's when
weird.
They're at the base of the mountain, and then they meet the guy who sends them to, like, it's got the Greek name, the Panopleum or whatever it is.
Okay.
So they go, and maybe you skipped over it, but there's a scene where it's basically like a 24-hour New Age convention. And like everybody is just there navel gazing about their philosophies, practicing powers, doing all this stuff. Yeah. And it's all there to get you like, look, here's an industry of magicians, right? And so they walk through and they're just like they just make a mockery of them as they go, and then they leave, and being like, no, like you guys are fools. You just like because they won't go climb the fucking holy mountain. They just want to fucking hang at the base of the mountain.
Yeah. There's
Right.
a lot, and there's a lot of that little subtle cinematography in there, and writing and directing that this is a movie you could watch over and over and over again and find new things. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, dude. Well, man, thank you for coming on tonight. I appreciate you staying up late. I don't know what time you usually go to bed, but it's got to be around midnight there. So it's about 9 here.
Well, it's a weekend, so I go to bed late. You know,
Right.
I've got a pretty early like job in construction now, so I go to bed early on the weeknights.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you for being here, man. Appreciate your time and always your words and wisdom. I love when you take the time to share with us here. So,
Oh man, I appreciate some spotlight time. I've worked very hard to figure out this kind of stuff in a way that is just a real and reasonable conversation until I start talking about interdimensional anti-gods.
right. Right.
It was really interesting, and the audience really enjoyed you tonight, Zeralath. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, guys. I'm always glad to be in the chat. I'll see you another time.
All right. Before you go, tell everyone where they can find you.
All right. So tonight, which I also was streaming this on my channel, Zeralath Eternal on YouTube, is the best place to find me. If you're on X, you can follow me on Zeralath369. You'll get notifications often enough about a number of things. If you're on Instagram, I'm Zeralath on Instagram. And if you need a psychic reading, I do tarot and runes, Zeralath@yahoo.com. You shoot me an email, and we'll talk about what reading for what rate you need.
Nice. All right, man. Well,
I have had a couple of those readings, and you should do it if you are curious or interested. He's very good. He's very good, very insightful, and very accurate. So I recommend Zeralath for that.
I'm very helpful too.
Yes, very helpful.
It's just like it's all about knowing the right question to ask, which is why I was
Yes.
complaining about those reporters earlier in the show.
All right, man. Well, thanks again, and we will see you next time.
See you, Zeralath.
Peace out.
Later.